Every single empire, from the Romans to the British, looks permanently unstoppable right up until the exact moment it falls. History is absolutely crystal clear on this point.
You know, every empire really does look permanent while it's sitting there at its peak. History is literally full of these incredibly powerful financial and political systems that seem completely impossible to replace. The people living inside them couldn't even imagine a viable alternative. Until, well, they were replaced.
Which leads us to a pretty fascinating modern dilemma, and really this central question of this explainer. Could the exact same thing happen to the US dollar? Like, are we staring down a sudden, catastrophic collapse? Or is the financial dominance of the dollar somehow structurally different from those empires of the past?
See, the big myth here is that a currency collapse happens overnight. But the reality, it's not a sudden crash. It's a much slower, gradual erosion of trust. Financial systems almost never disappear in a single dramatic moment. Instead, trust just kind of slowly shifts. New competitors pop up, habits change, tech evolves, and trade patterns move around. This whole process can take years, or honestly decades. So the real threat to the dollar isn't some sudden overnight crash, it's this slow, gradual erosion.
Section 1. Signs of a global shift.
Right now, around the world, we're seeing some really clear warning signs of de-dollarization as countries actively hunt for other options. Just look at these developments. You've got some nations rapidly stacking up their gold reserves. Others are experimenting with settling trades in their own local currencies to bypass the dollar entirely. Central banks are heavily exploring their own digital currencies. But maybe the craziest indicator for 2026 is Bitcoin's transition from a highly speculative trade into a legitimate, strategic treasury reserve asset.
The 2026 Amina Crypto Outlook actually captures this shift perfectly. They noted that Bitcoin's most important transformation is no longer visible on price charts, it's occurring on balance sheets. And we know from recent data that institutional, benchmark-driven investors are now holding nearly a quarter, about 24.5% of Bitcoin ETF assets. This shows us that alternatives to the traditional fiat system aren't just a fringe idea anymore. They're gaining serious, structural traction among major global players.
Section 2. The Challenger Problem.
Now here's the tough part. Everyone talks about replacing the dollar with a new currency, which, let's be real, is super easy to talk about. But there's a massive distinction here. What the world actually needs isn't just a new currency. It needs a new system. Think about it. Imagine a challenger emerges tomorrow. Can that network actually handle trillions of dollars in global trade every single day? Can it command massive institutional trust? Can governments and banks absolutely depend on it during a severe global economic crisis? Building a truly global financial system is, without a doubt, one of the hardest projects in human history.
Section 3. The Ultimate Proof.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the safe haven effect. Basically, it's an investment expected to retain or even increase in value during times of market turbulence and geopolitical uncertainty. See, when global uncertainty spikes and panic sets in, smart capital doesn't just freeze. It instinctively runs towards systemic safety.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real data. During the first quarter of 2016, Investing.com pointed out that as tensions escalated and global risk appetite weakened, investors moved into dollar-denominated assets. Think about what was going on in the world at that time. We were looking at a major Middle East shock that pushed Brent crude oil towards $110 a barrel, right alongside massive global inflation fears. And yet, global capital still flooded straight into US dollars. Now, this doesn't mean the system is perfect, but it absolutely proves that trust in the dollar remains a profoundly powerful force when things get incredibly volatile.
Section 4. The Systemic Lesson.
Take a really close look at this map from PwC, which maps out the dollar's digital reach across emerging markets. Here's the thing most people miss. The world's most powerful financial structures are built slowly through trust, adoption, and consistency. The dollar system isn't collapsing, it's actually upgrading. It's expanding its reach into emerging markets, not through old-school correspondent banking, but through digital stablecoins. For populations dealing with severe currency volatility, these stablecoin wallets are basically acting as de facto digital dollar accounts, pushing the network way beyond America's physical borders.
95%. That is a truly staggering number. Over 95% of all global stablecoin value is dollar-denominated. This is actively transforming the dollar from a traditional reserve asset that just sits quietly in central banks into a highly programmable digital reserve network operating 24/7. So the dollar's dominance is actively being reinforced through tech rather than just pure policy.
So, what's the core takeaway for us as investors? Well, smart money totally ignores those sensational headlines about sudden overnight collapses. Instead, you've got to focus on incentives, track institutional trust, follow real-world network adoption. You have to understand that replacing a deeply embedded system relied upon by literally billions of people, a system that is actively digitizing itself as we speak, is a monumentally difficult task.
Section 5. The final insight.
At the end of the day, the dollar's greatest strength isn't the paper it's printed on, the printing presses, or even the politics behind it. It's collective belief. Caroline McElroy from PwC hit the nail on the head here, saying, as the financial system becomes more digital, the dollar's future will hinge less on who issues it and more on the infrastructure it can operate across. In the world of finance, belief very often becomes reality. And until the world stops trusting this vast, newly digitized infrastructure, the dollar remains pretty much untouchable.
If you want to keep uncovering the truth about how money, investing, and global power really operate, make sure you subscribe and follow our Global Financial System and Investing Mastery series. But I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to debate down in the comments. If the US dollar somehow stopped being the world's dominant currency tomorrow, which system do you think would actually have the capacity and the global trust to take its place? Are we talking gold, the euro, the Chinese yuan, Bitcoin? Or is it going to be something completely different?
Stay tuned, because in our next explainer, we're going to be exploring the petrodollar secret, how oil made America financially untouchable. I will see you there.